what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that I could change what you wanted. I wish that
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway as it plays host to the 34th race of the 5th season of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. This is race number 2 of the final round of the playoffs, the middle race, if you will, and it's going to set us up for either possibly knowing who one of our final 4 competing teams could be, or set us up with some very interesting scenarios once we get to next week's final elimination race at Rockingham. Here today, though, it's going to come down between 6 teams. They're obviously trying to find their way into that championship finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. We'll see if here today, if that's going to be possible, as, if I'm not mistaken, I believe in the last 3 times that we've run here, the 3 previous races we've run at this racetrack, a playoff contender has not gone to victory lane. We've seen here so far this season only one playoff team has gone to victory lane during the playoffs, and that was, of course, Dave Campus a couple of weeks ago. So will we end up seeing one of the drivers that's running for a playoff contending team lock themselves up a spot, head into North Carolina Speedway, worry-free knowing they're battling for the championship, or will we end up going 7 for 8 in non-playoff drivers taking checkered flags here in a playoff race? We're moments away from finding out, as it'll be 38 laps of racing here today. We are expecting the possibility, maybe, of a green flag pit stop or a pit stop here today regardless. We shouldn't see these drivers have to come to pit road any more than one time, though, so that one pit stop, if it takes place, could be very critical. But again, we're not necessarily certain that they will have to make that pit stop, so we could end up seeing these drivers all in one pack for the entirety of today's event. That is, unless we end up having the triggering of the dreaded big one. Let's take a look at the playoff points coming into this race off of last week's event at Boston. And as you'll see here, cut line right now separating 4th from 5th position. The final 4 are those that are going to make it into the Homestead Miami season finale championship battle. But you can see it was kind of split last week. Half of our playoff contenders did well, the other half not so well. Great points days for the 8, the 77, and the 78. But the 09, the 95, and the 47, they're only separated by 6 points right now for that final transfer position. So we'll have to wait and see after today's race if maybe a couple of those drivers down there, a couple of those teams, the 95, the 47 below the cut line, if they can get above the cut line. Of course, they would be looking for that golden ticket to victory lane as well, but a lot can happen. A lot of unpredictable stuff can happen at a track like Talladega Super Speedway. Let's go down trackside for pre-race ceremonies, and we will begin things with today's singing of the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, and given, and these drivers will head off behind the pace car, and they'll make their way around for a pace lap. Distance of 2.66 miles in total. Let's give it the starting lineup for today's race. One of the few tracks this season where track position is not really going to matter, but it is Charles Sanford who will start on the pole position. He'll be alongside of Phil Parker in row 1. Carter Fries and Ryan Butcher, playoff contending driver. They're going to make up row 2. Daniel Silla and Nick Gunther will share row 3. Row 4 finds Austin LaPlante and Joshua Osborne, with Keith Batson and Cole Baker completing the top 10. Playoff contending team and driver Cody Smart will roll off from 11th alongside of Michael Wayne Robinson in the 6th row. 7th row finds Pedro Lucas and Trey Wright. James Quall shares row 8 with Tim Walsh. Row 9 comprised of Jack Mitchell and playoff contending driver Matt Haas, the only driver that has a restrictor plate victory this season, that of course being the Daytona 500. Dylan Pote makes up the completion of the top 20 with Dylan Young. Levi McIntyre and Amanda Evans, they're back in row 11. Andrew Lemke, who won the last time these primary drivers were on track back at Lime Rock, he comprises row 12 with Cody Lamas. Benny Watson, former winner here at Talladega, back from season 3. He's with Jesse Turner, playoff contending driver, back in row 13. Kyle Matthews, another playoff driver. He's going to roll off 27th alongside of the outgoing champion, Carson Gum, after the 19 car got eliminated from the playoffs back at the elimination race at Arizona. And completing the field in 29th place is going to be playoff contending driver Patrick Smith in the 77. Notice that entire pace lap there, the 0-1 of Jack Mitchell on the apron. Looks like he'll be making an unscheduled trip to pit road. So a tough break there for the Adrenaline Motorsports Chevrolet right out of the gate. He'll obviously be hoping for a caution to maybe stay on the lead lap and get caught back up to the rest of the field. But it's going to be a Chevrolet and Charles Sanford, a Ford and Phil Parker that bring us down and get ready to get us underway in potentially the last wild card race of the playoffs. Who will make their way into the Final Four here today? Will someone make their way into the Final Four? We are 38 laps away from finding out. We'll keep tabs on the 0-1 of Jack Mitchell. See if he will return to the racetrack and if he can stay on the lead lap. Not certain exactly what's going on with that Chevrolet. As Carter Friesen will tuck in behind Charles Sanford. They'll go to first and second into turn 3. Daniel Silla will now slot into the 3rd spot. Keith Batson, Austin LaPlante side by side for 4th. They're 3 wide, about 2-3 rows deep back there around the 9th, 10th position. Cole Baker in the middle of that. Levi McIntyre to the inside. Phil Parker to the outside. Lap 1 at almost 200 miles per hour already. Going to be led by the Coke Vanilla Chevrolet out of S3 Motorsports, Charles Sanford, who now moves up the racetrack and will hand the lead over, it looked like, into turn 1 to Daniel Silla. Pedro Lucas now going to dive down to the inside. Talladega Superspeedway is one of only 2 superspeedways we run during the course of the season. That was in seasons 1, 3, and 4, and now here in season 5. It ended up getting replaced back in season 2. Armory Digital Superspeedway was on the schedule at that point in time for the 3rd to last race of the season. Jessica Shelton was the winner of that race. The previous winners here at Talladega, only one of them in the field, which we documented, Benny Watson, back from season 3. The other 2 previous winners, Jordan Lopez won the inaugural race here back in season 1. And the defending winner of this race, Ryan Brommer. Brommer actually won back-to-back races at Boston and Talladega last season as a non-playoff contender. Andrew Lemke moving around there, right ahead of Benny Watson, former Talladega winner. Lemke side by side with Sanford. That is, I believe, for the 5th position. Actually, correction, that's for P6. As Pedro Lucas to the top position. LaPlante in 2nd, and Levi McIntyre now getting by James Qualls makes his way up into the podium position. Jack Mitchell has returned back onto the racetrack. He is still on the lead lap at this point in time, but he is only running about maybe 13 seconds ahead of the race leader. They're coming off turn 2. He's just now going into turn 3. So there's no doubt that if we remain under green flag conditions, he will go a lap down. He is hoping to see a caution flag come out sooner rather than later so he can get back to the tail end of the lead lap and be able to make up positions. Apparently whatever it was, not enough to send him back behind the wall, but be very curious to find out what it was that drew him to pit lane. He was not able to roll off the grid at the start of the race with the rest of the field. None of our playoff contending teams are up inside the top 10 right now, but Patrick Smith, who rolled off from the last starting position, he is currently, well, he was up inside the top 10. He's now faded back. He was in 9th position last time by, but now you can see he is not inside the top 10 on our ticker. I believe the highest running playoff contending team right now would end up being the 8 of Matt Haas. Daytona 500 winner looking for the Super Speedway sweep, but he's right now only up to the 18th position. There is Patrick Smith in the 77, just a couple cars behind. Kyle Matthews right there as well. Kyle Matthews, a lot of pressure coming into today, a wild card type race, and that's the bubble driver. That's the bubble team right now, 4th in the point stands. Only 2 points in hand over the 95 team and only 6 points over the 47 team. There is the 47 car, there's the 78, and there's the 95. All there in that shot. All still in the lead pack right now. Phil Parker appears to have maybe lost the draft, though. Maybe the same can be said for Tim Walsh as he's trying to stay in the slipstream of the 95 and the 55. But I think Phil Parker has lost the draft there, so Phil, along with Jack Mitchell, they're both hoping for a caution to come out. Levi McIntyre must have gotten kicked up to the high side. He's now faded back outside of the top 10, and Jack Mitchell's problems are going to get worse. He's already been caught. Pedro Lucas goes to the top. LaPlante's going to go to the bottom, and where do all these other drivers with momentum go? Some are going to dart to the inside, some to the outside. Now they'll go to the inside. Daniel Silla's trapped on the top, and he lost all his momentum. Just like that, he's going to go from 3rd last time by to probably outside the top 10 when we come around to the start-finish line. And Pedro Lucas has about a 3-car length gap back to Austin LaPlante. He's going to get swallowed up here with the run they're going to get on him through the tri-oval. Where does he go? Where does he try to block? LaPlante did lose a little bit of momentum there as James Qualls couldn't stay locked to his back bumper. Benny Watson's going to get around him for 3rd. So Lucas got very lucky there with LaPlante losing his drafting partner. Otherwise, he more than likely would not have led that lap and would not be leading us here out of turn number 2. Talked a couple weeks about how the 21 team was doing really well. They had made their way up to, I think it was around 16th or 17th in points. Last couple of weeks, though, they've gone kind of back to where they were middle of the regular season. They've dropped down to 22nd in points. But Pedro Lucas still trying to give No Limits Racing their first win of the season. Northeast Motorsports Austin LaPlante looking for their 2nd win on the year. LaPlante the only driver so far in that car that's gone to victory lane. And Benny Watson right there in the 32. Trying to pick up his first win on the year, looking for the 2nd victory for the 32 car this season. Ryan Acosta had the first back at Bristol, and here comes Cody Lamas now. He's going to go into the top 3 with that pass on Benny Watson. Cody, of course, a former winner at Road America. That was the 2 times ago that the primary drivers were on track at Road America. And Carson Gum now going to make his way to the inside. Carson Gum, former winner this season, was the only chance of us having a repeat champion. Now we are guaranteed a brand new champion, or I should say 3 new champions, but he's just trying to finish out the season as best he can with as many checkered flags as possible. And here comes Matt Haas in that 8. Right now, the 8 car with a tremendous run by Pierce Crone last week at Boston, they are currently sitting 17 points ahead of the cut line. But if Matt Haas is able to go to victory lane here today, that not only would tie the 78 team out of Auto Junction Racing for most wins on the season, but it would also guarantee that Matt Haas, Dave Campos, and Pierce Crone would be battling for the championship at Homestead Miami Speedway, which I believe, based off of the running order, would mean that Pierce Crone would be the one that would start that Homestead race. The 8 is now no longer the highest running playoff team, though. Patrick Smith just made his way around the 8 car and now is up to the 5th position with that pass on Dylan Poteet, his teammate in the 78, not too far back. We've seen Patrick Smith and Ryan Butcher get into it a couple of times this season. First at Nashville earlier on, and then not too long ago at Road America. This is a track where you need your friends, you need your teammates, you need your manufacturer alliances. Hopefully their fences have been mended, because they may need to work together here today to ensure that Auto Junction Racing could comprise 50% of the Final Four when we get to Homestead Miami Speedway in a couple weeks. Pedro Lucas has done a good job of controlling the draft here. Nobody's really been able to get alongside of him so far. He has led every lap but 2. Charles Sanford and Austin LaPlante are the only other drivers that have led laps so far today. Carson Gum trying to get a run there, not able to do it. That's going to allow Patrick Smith to drive to the inside for second. I don't think he's going to get to the electric quarter panel, though. Nope, nothing doing. See Carson kind of back up to the 77 to see if he can get a run on Pedro Lucas here out of turn 4 and into the tri-oval. Let's check towards the back of the pack and see if there's any of our playoff contenders that are having issues. The 77 right now running 3rd, the 78 right now in 5th. There's the 8. We saw him drop back last time by. Matt Haas was scored in 14th. 09 still in the lead pack. Right now scored 21st. It looks like Jesse Turner, Cody Smart, they're still in the lead group, but they really haven't made their way up to the front just yet. They might be just lying in wait. Right now they were last time by scored in 25th and 26th. Tim Walsh has lost the lead draft back here in 27th. Phil Parker, we know, has lost the draft in 28th. And Jack Mitchell is in this lead pack. He's the 6th car in line, but he is the only car right now 1 lap down to the race leader. Patrick Smith would love to lead a lap here. Same for Ryan Butcher. So far, none of our playoff contenders have led a lap here today. Really could use that crucial bonus point. Talked about the fact that here at Talladega, it's not really a track that puts a lot of emphasis on track position. Case in point, Patrick Smith rolled off the grid last, and right now he's running in the 2nd position. Next week's going to be a completely different story at North Carolina Speedway, or Rockingham, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be all about track positions. So, even something as minuscule as a lap-led bonus point could be very important next week if some driver is not able to lay down that really good lap time in qualifying and has to start mid-pack or even towards the rear of the field. This is the 4th place battle right here between the 48 and the 32. Remember, the 0-1 of Jack Mitchell is a lap down, so he could certainly be an X factor in helping to push someone to victory lane if he's not able to get himself back on the lead lap before the end of this thing. A lot of movement right there. LaPlante, Watson, Carson Gum, Keith Batson all jumping down to the inside line. Ryan Butcher's going to get stuck up on the top side, and he's going to have no friends to help him. The Gatorade Toyota Camry going backwards. Same there for Levi McIntyre's 99, and Mitchell says, "Come with me, fellow Chevrolet Austin LaPlante. I'll lead you to the front." He's going to make the move there on Cody Lamas. That's going to move the 48 up to P3. They are also catching up just now to the 74 of Phil Parker, about to put him a lap down. So that's a position that Jack Mitchell would be able to pick up here under green flag conditions, as Lucas going to jump to the top side on Phil Parker. That's the 2nd time that Pedro Lucas has caught a car to put them a lap down, and he's gone to the outside of them, and both times it has seemed to work out. Things going to get wadded up here now, though, with Phil Parker's momentum stacking everybody up. It's going to be good news for drivers like Kyle Matthews and Jesse Turner, who might have been in danger of losing the lead pack. However, the 95 of Cody Smart and the 17 of James Qualls, I don't know if they might have lost the draft here. If Cody Smart has lost the draft, that's going to be detrimental in more ways than one, because if he doesn't get a caution to come out to save him, remember the 95 car came into this race below the cut line, 5th of the 6 playoff contenders. And they can really ill afford to have 2 bad races in a row, or else they'd be in the same situation that we've seen teams like the 55 team back in round 1, the 19 and the 31 team back in the second round of heading into the elimination race, and pretty much a must-win situation. If I'm not mistaken, I believe next week it would fall to Sean Arndt to drive the 95 car, and certainly would not want to have to be in a must-win situation there. I believe, though, that those 2 cars, Qualls and Smart, they have lost the lead draft. So we are almost up to about a half dozen drivers right now that are hoping for a caution to come out to save their race in some way, shape, or form. But Keith Batson there in the 39, now up to the 2nd position. He's been just kind of slowly, methodically working his way up there towards the front. It's now Blue Ovals 1-2. Pedro Lucas got to be pretty happy to go back, look back in his rearview mirror and see a fellow manufacturer following him. Then you got the Toyota of Matt Haas, the Chevrolet of Austin LaPlante, and the Dodge of Daniel Silla. So all 4 manufacturers right now represented inside of the top 5, and Matt Haas is going to get left out to dry. He's going to fall towards the back once again, but this time it might be a much longer fall, as we've got a lot more drivers up here in this lead pack than there were the last time it got kicked to the top side. Looks like Dylan Young may have been kicked up there as well in the 2 car. Of course, that Young Motorsports entry going to victory lane for the first time this season last week, courtesy of Adam Garcia. Dylan Young trying to get back-to-back victories for the Deuce, but really haven't seen Dylan Young up here towards the front at all in this race. Nick Gunther going to force the issue 3 wide. Trey Wright got put in the middle. Daniel Silla kicked up to the 3 wide high side. He's now going to tuck in line. Trey Wright, a former winner at Super Speedway, the Daytona 500. I also noticed, can't really see it just yet, looks like he's making forward progress though, that teal green Arizona Iced Tea Toyota Camry of Cole Baker, another former Daytona 500 winner. He is working his way up towards the front. So around this point in time, we would be seeing drivers diving onto pit lane if we had the pit frequency set to 2x, but we have it set to 1x here today. So we will not see these drivers on pit lane, at least yet. Again, as we mentioned, though, not certain exactly what the fuel window is on 1x, so whether there is a pit stop in these drivers' future or not, we cannot say. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen a little bit later on, not right now. Might have a battle for the lead. LaPlante stepping out on Pedro Lucas, who has led 18 laps so far, and LaPlante's going to get the spot. Lucas has done a masterful job of keeping everybody at bay, but now they are on the attack. Now look at all the drivers migrate down to the inside line. Sanford's down there, Watson's down there, Friesen. A lot of Chevrolet bow ties all lined up nose to tail. Now Friesen gets stuck in the middle 3 wide. Lucas isn't going away quietly. He's still battling with LaPlante there for that top position. And Sanford's going to ditch the bottom line. He's going to move up to the top. That might help Pedro Lucas be able to get this lap led. Let's see, trying to side draft the 48. Back to the stripe, give it to the 21. Wonder what the interval was there. We'll find out in a few moments. Oh, now Sanford's lost touch with Pedro Lucas, though. They're lined up on the bottom. 17 one-thousandths of a second was how close it was at the start-finish line that last time by between the 21 and the 48. And now they're starting to get racy. It's not just double wide, it's 3 wide up here at the front of the field. Look at Trey Wright stick it down to the inside of Benny Watson. Carson Gumb's going to follow in his tire tracks as Austin LaPlante's going to go to the point in the Ally Banking Chevrolet. Of course, we know that Austin LaPlante's going to be returning back to Northeast Motorsports. That's confirmed. He'll be back behind the wheel of the 48 car in Season 6 of Duracell Cup competition. I want to drop to the back, see about some drivers that are playoff contenders that might be in danger of losing the draft, but right now, really want to keep it up here at the front because it's looking like the battle for the lead. It's taking place every corner, every lap. Now second place under contest, Michael Wayne Robinson and Carson Gum. Dylan Young, we saw him fall to the back. He's back up to the front again, now in the fourth position, looking for third on Carson Gum, following in the slipstream of fellow Ford Mustang Robinson. Let's update you on where your playoff contenders are currently running here as we are in the 15 laps to go vicinity, hitting the stripe this time by. We'll actually wait until they all cross the start-finish line this time, give you the update. As I believe Patrick Smith is the highest running of the playoff contenders. There you see the E3 Spark Plugs Toyota Camry moving into the fourth position unofficially. He was seventh the last time they crossed the start-finish line. Ryan Butcher's back in 15th. Matt Haas in 19th. Kyle Matthews is 22nd. Jesse Turner 24th. And Cody Smart has lost the draft. He is almost 15 seconds behind the race leader in the 25th position. So barring a caution, I think it's safe to say the 95 team, two-time winning team courtesy of Sean Arndt, they're going to be going into Rockingham next week in pretty much a must-win situation. Let's check on Kyle Matthews and Jesse Turner, see if they are still in the lead pack. And it doesn't look like it. Kyle Matthews trying to latch on to this lead group, but he's lost touch. And Jesse Turner, Andrew Lemke, our winner from Lime Rock, they have now lost the draft as well. So pretty much 4th, 5th, and 6th in the playoff standings coming into this one, all now in danger of losing this lead pack and finishing outside of the top 20. It was close between those three teams coming into this one, 6 points total separating those three positions. And it's probably going to be still just as close, if maybe not closer, when we get to Rockingham next week, which, you think about that, that's going to really alleviate a lot of pressure off the 77, the 78, and the 8 teams. If they can keep up the runs they're having right now, all three of those cars at this point in time, when they last crossed the start-finish line, were up inside of the top 10. I think they actually are in the top 10 right now. 3rd, 5th, and 6th, I think, if I was eyeballing it correctly there, down the back straightaway. I think these drivers are realizing the laps are ticking down. A lot more 3 wide in the middle of the pack, 3-4 rows deep, but up front, Austin LaPlante continues to show the way. Carson Gum is in 2nd. Tim Walsh right now is a lap machine, as is the 0-1 of Jack Mitchell. So 3rd place would be Matt Haas, 4th place Nick Gunther, and Keith Batson currently completes the top 5. And now Matt Haas gets kicked up to the top, and he's going to start falling back. Carson Gum, does he step out of line here on the 48? Not just yet. Behind them, you got the battle going on for 27th between Mitchell and Walsh. Looking to be the first car 1 lap down. Got 11 laps to go, which means that Pedro Lucas has locked up the bonus point for most laps led. There's no way that Austin LaPlante, even if he leads the rest of this race, can top that. Most laps he can lead would be 16 or 17. Be a couple of laps shy. Carson keeps getting a nice run there out of turn 2, but he does not want to make the move, it seems. Pretty content to ride behind the Chevrolet of LaPlante, which makes me wonder. We said we didn't know what the fuel window was for these guys. What if it's right on the mark? And what if Carson Gum is realizing that his best chance of winning this race and maybe making it on fuel if it really is that close is staying in the 48's draft, allowing the 48 to use up more fuel, creating the draft behind for the 19. Here's the 11 of Cole Baker. Saw him making his way up towards the front earlier. He got kicked back to around the 15th, 16th position, but now he is back up inside of the top 5 once again, moving into 4th. Pedro Lucas right behind him there in that 5th position. Believe it or not, Pedro Lucas just ran his fastest lap of the race right there, 46.006. 29 laps in. And Carson Gum now going to make an exit as he got kicked up to the top side, as did Keith Batson. Cole Baker now moves into the runner-up spot, and he and Pedro Lucas are going to dive to the inside on Austin LaPlante, and they got a lot of help. Trey Wright's down there. Lap car of Jack Mitchell, Benny Watson in the 32. Baker now jumps up to the top side. He leaves the door open, and Pedro Lucas says, thank you very much. He's going to stick his nose in, and he'll go to the race lead. Might have some cat and mouse games going on right now as well. Drivers get up to the front, don't really want it, kind of fade back, maybe trying to save fuel. Don't know just how close it really is of these drivers being able to make it the scheduled 38-lap distance. But Pedro Lucas, who spent 19 laps out in front, he's back out in clean air again. One would have to assume if they can't make it on fuel, the 21 is a driver that absolutely would have to come to pit road sooner than others. But again, a lot of unknowns here. 8 laps to go at the stripe there for Pedro Lucas. Benny Watson, former Dega winner from a couple of seasons ago, now into second. He's got his teammate Carter Friesen with him. In fact, you got a number of the Pigeon Racing Chevrolets up here inside of the top 5 right now, the 32, the 6, and the 19. Their other teammate, Dylan Poteen, the 31, back there mired in traffic. And now you've got the Pigeon Racing Chevrolets lined up second, third, fourth on that inside line. So Pedro Lucas might have to do a lot of defending here if those 3 Chevy Camaros can get hooked up here through the tri-oval. Then again, there's no telling if they'll work together. It could be the point now of every man for himself. As things stand right now, though, it is looking like it's going to be points that will be the talking point next week at Rockingham in terms of drivers and teams trying to make their way into the Final Four. You do have Ryan Butcher right now just taking the 5th position, who would be able to win his way into the Final Four if he's able to close out the deal here today. But really none of our other playoff contenders have gotten up here to the front in the last couple of laps. Patrick Smith is up right now inside of the top 10, latter half of the top 10. And Matt Haas, after he got kicked back to the rear of this lead group, he's not really made any forward progress up. Last time by, he was scored in 18th. It is official. Jesse Turner and Kyle Matthews have lost the draft. So yeah, the 09, the 47, and the 95, they are going to be fighting tooth and nail next week at Rockingham for that final 4th playoff position. It's obviously too early to say just yet until the points have been officially calculated, but I'm almost wondering if the 77, the 78, and the 8 might be able to lock themselves up Final Four positions here today, just based off the fact they've had back-to-back good races, and the other 3 teams have had back-to-back horrible races. Keith Batson's been able to break up those Pigeon Racing Chevrolets. Sent Carson Gum to the top side, Benny Watson to the top side. He's got Carter Friesen in his rearview mirror as Lucas hits the line. 5 laps to go here at Talladega. We've got 21 cars in this lead pack right now. 5 drivers running over 15 seconds plus back behind the race leader, still on the lead lap though, and 3 cars currently off the lead lap. Jack Mitchell, Phil Parker, and Tim Walsh. We have not seen a caution flag here today at all. So the big one has not played a part into the playoff scenario. But we're still wondering if pit road will. It's Pedro Lucas, no indication to pit road this time. Leads Keith Batson through the tri-oval, and he'll come around to see 4 laps to go. But Joshua Osborne, kind of looking for some other faces we haven't seen up at the front that might be appearing late. Hunt Brothers Ford Mustang, last time by, scored in the 7th position. Good run for him. He might have something to say before this race is over. And Charles Samper started on the pole position. He's now back up inside of the top 10, looking to do one of the toughest things a driver can do at a super speedway. That's go coast to coast, pole to win. Patrick Smith now getting kicked up to the top side. I'll tell you what, the playoff drivers are not getting any love by the non-playoff contenders. They know that the playoff drivers are out here trying to win to advance into the Final Four. But they want to get a checkered flag. They've been unceremoniously moving the 77, the 78, the 8 up the racetrack as soon as they get up towards anywhere towards the front. Austin LaPlante now going to try and move into second. Charles Sanford on that inside line going to pull alongside of Keith Batson for third. But Pedro Lucas again doing exactly what he did in the early going when he was out in front, and that is controlling the draft, controlling which lines move, controlling the momentum each line gets, and not really letting anybody get any more than about half a car length to his back bumper. Can Pedro Lucas get it done here today? Looking to get Ford their second win in a row, but looking more importantly for the 21 car No Limits Racing first win of their Duracell Cup Series career. Remember, No Limits Racing debuted last season when Natana Miedo and Pedro Lucas drove their non-charter entries. They came into this season in a full-time capacity with Lucas, Allison Rodrigo, and Bruno Harumi. They've been close a number of times here this season, but they just haven't been able to close out the deal. Pedro Lucas might be able to do it here today, as he's got 1.5 laps left to keep Austin LaPlante and company in his rearview mirror. LaPlante is there. He does not have any drafting help, though, to be able to get any closer to the 21. Now he'll have Charles Sanford in tow here off of turn 4. Do they maybe make a move heading into the tri-oval? I feel like right there would have been a great shot for LaPlante to try and go for the race lead. But he stays in the tire tracks of Pedro Lucas, and they will see the white flag this time by at Talladega. Pedro Lucas started this race from the 13th position. He has led 25 laps so far, looking to lead the most important one. LaPlante right behind him, Charles Sanford in third, Levi McIntyre in fourth. There's single file here amongst the top 4. Who steps out of line? Who makes a move? How long can they wait? Looks like they're going to wait at least until turn 4. LaPlante not really close enough yet to make a move. Trying to get a run. Looks like he may get one here. Does he dive it to the inside? He's got the momentum, but he's not going to go to the inside. He can't make the move, and Pedro Lucas will get his first career win in the Duracell Cup Series at Talladega Superspeedway. Well done to Pedro Lucas, as No Limits Racing gets their first career victory in Duracell Cup Series competition. Still have a number of cars haven't crossed the start-finish line, including 3 playoff contending teams. Kyle Matthews, with help from Andrew Lemke, he's going to pick up a couple of spots there on Jesse Turner. And Cody Smart right now looks like he's going to cross the start-finish line in the 25th position. He and James Qualls just now coming around to complete their final lap of the race. So Ford goes back-to-back here off of Adam Garcia's victory last week at Boston. Lucas the win here today, and now we know that it will be a points battle for the final spot in the Final Four next week at Rockingham Speedway. Nobody locking themselves into the season finale championship race, although it looks like a pretty good case could be made, maybe for the 77, 78, and the 8, depending on where they finished out today's event, which we'll take a look at right now. Finishing results are official. Lucas, the victor here today. Look at that. No cautions, so an average race speed of 204 plus miles per hour. These guys were flying around this racetrack. LaPlante going to bring it home in second. Charles Sanford, solid outing here today for him, as he'll bring it home in third after starting on the pole. We only had 4 different race leaders here today. Lucas, LaPlante, Sanford were 3 of the 4. Cole Baker was the only other one. Levi McIntyre bringing it home inside the top 5 in 4th. Trey Wright behind him in 5th. Joshua Osborne in 6th. So you had a lot of Fords up here inside of the top 10. Add to that Keith Batson in 8th and Dylan Young in 10th. Daniel Silla's Dodge was 7th, and Nick Gunther's Chevrolet completed the top 10 there in 9th position. Benny Watson, he finished in 11th, 12th for Carson Gum, 13th Michael Wayne Robinson, 14th for Dylan Poteet. Highest playoff contender was Patrick Smith, and he finished all the way back in 15th position. So, I'm not saying they're completely out of the woods yet, but himself, Ryan Butcher, who was 16th, and Matt Haas, who was 19th, they finished obviously higher than Matthews, Turner, or Smart, but not by much. I mean, you look at Kyle Matthews finishing in 22nd, that's only 7 spots behind the 77 of Patrick Smith, and the gap between those two coming into this race was 17 points. That's 24 points separation between those two, so it still may be close. It still may be an opportunity for Kyle Matthews, Jesse Turner, or Cody Smart's teams to be able to knock the 77, 78, or 8 out of the Final Four, depending on what happens next week at Rockingham. Here's a look at the rest of the finishing results. So we had a number of drivers lose the lead pack, including Matthews, Turner, and Smart. So the hardships of those teams last week compounded with the troubles they had here today. It certainly puts them in a precarious position heading into next week. But I think if you look at it here, Matthews, Turner, and Smart finish, 4 position separation? So let's say for mathematics' sakes, 3 points separating those 3 right there, and they came into this race separated by 6 points. I mean, we're looking less than 10 points separating 4th, 5th, and 6th more than likely in the playoff standings. That crucial 4th and final position in the championship battle at Homestead. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch next week. 3 drivers finished a lap down, Mitchell, Walsh, and Parker. Of course, Walsh and Parker lost the draft. They got put a lap down into green flag conditions. Jack Mitchell had to come to pit road before we even took the green flag. Unscheduled pit stop for what we can only assume might have been a mechanical problem that they had to look into before going green. But none of the drivers finished out of the race. Everybody ended up finishing this race under their own power, and we did not see a single caution flag during the course of today's 38-lap event. Well, they've done the calculations. Let's take a look and see what the scenario is heading into next week at Rockingham. And here you can see it. There is an advantage for the 77, the 78, and the 8 over that cut line heading into next week. But I do believe that mathematically they still could fall out of the Final Four if they finish way down in the finishing results. Of course, a lot's going to depend as well on the drivers of the 09, the 95, and the 47 next week. I believe it is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen Pollard III, Stephen Colon, and Sean Arndt that are going to be doing the driving duties for those respective teams. They're obviously, their main focus is going to be fighting for that final 4th position above the cut line, but I'm certain that they would love to give themselves a little bit of insurance as well, see if maybe they can knock out one of the top 3 who have had good runs here in the first 2 races of the 3rd round of the playoffs. But it should be really interesting next week to find out who is moving on and who are going to be the final 2 eliminated drivers from the Championship 4 battle at Homestead Miami Speedway. Hope you guys will tune in for that. If you enjoyed today's race here from Talladega, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, part of the crew today. We showed you your full finish results. We've shown you now your playoff point standings heading into North Carolina Speedway next week. Hope you guys will join us for that. Pedro Lucas, his first career win here today at Talladega Super Speedway in the Duracell Cup Series. Until next week, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.